Give it up for Barinder Bilal. All right, good morning. The morning after the after party. So wonderful to see you. It's an honor to be here today, to see so many familiar faces, meet new people. It's been amazing conversations and debates, and looking forward to the interactions today. As mentioned, my name is Barinder Bilal. I serve as Senior Vice President of Corporate Affairs with Brains Bioceutical, and today we'll talk about advancing the cannabinoid scientific landscape. But first, I want to tell you, when presenting, I was researching evidence and what's key, and all of the evidence that points to when making presentations says that if you can incorporate children and kids, you get a more captive audience. So I want you to meet my younger son, Anik. He just had his first hockey game 2 weeks ago. He was very happy. Anik, my native language is Punjabi, and Anik in Punjabi means honor, dignity, and pride. But there's even more compelling evidence that if you can incorporate pets somehow, you get even a more captive audience. And with AI, look what we can produce these days. So now that I hopefully have your attention, we can get into the talk. But today, we're going to talk about advancing the cannabinoid scientific landscape. I'll talk about how using the right molecules we can advance clinical trials. We can do a lot of great innovations. We can do a lot of great formulations. We can attract the nutraceutical and pharmaceutical industries to be champions in creating therapeutics and therapies that are needed for millions around the world. All of that with the goal of providing solutions to patients, loved ones, and friends. Now, I'll also say that we know there's a lot of pathways to providing therapies. There's the medical pathway, there's a pharmaceutical pathway, there's full spectrum, broad spectrum, using terpenes, but that is all part of the solutions. And this is the approach we have taken to focus on cannabinoids, because we are utilizing all of our executive team's experience within the pharmaceutical space. So we are a part of that solution, of that full gamut that we'll bring to you here. I'll give you a quick little background on who we are at Brains Bio. We're an evidence-based, science-led pioneer of cannabinoid health and wellness solutions. Our business could be summarized into 4 verticals. Namely, we provide active pharmaceutical ingredients to the pharmaceutical industries. We have applications and enhanced delivery systems. We also are into pharmaceutical development, where we create new chemical entities for high and unmet needs of pioneering the scientific landscape and working with researchers around the globe. And we take all of our foundational work on the API side that we produce, and we bring nutraceutical and dietary supplement products with pure high CBD, providing finished dosage forms, all of them that come with certifications such as NSF, novel foods, validated both in the EU and also the UK, tested by the World Anti-Doping Agency laboratory, and also informed choice. And then lastly, we are pioneering novel evidences and support products for the animal health side. So everything that we do on the human side, we bring to the animal health side. Now, why do we do this? And what excites all of us to do this? It's because it's not just us as industry executives, it's not just us as sector folks talking about the excitement, what's happening, but it's the scientists, it's the researchers, it's the medical community, it's the doctors that want to see the evidence and data, what can do. And we know what the evidence says, that companies that can successfully modify the endocannabinoid system and understand how the different cannabinoids work within the body can unlock powerful potential therapeutics. And so it's not just, as I mentioned, us saying that. And Lou, you look at the potential, you look at the quotes on the screen coming from eminent researchers. This is why it's so important. With the right team and the right focus, we can unlock a lot of positive therapies out there. But it doesn't come without challenges. There are a lot of challenges, and one of the challenges that we see is a patient challenge. There are outliers, places like right here in Germany, places in North America, where patients do have access. But let's use the UK as an example. Right now, currently today, there are 2 to 3 million people that could rely on cannabinoid-based therapies. 2 to 3 million people, yet only 25,000 are getting access. It's about less than 1%. And out of the 124,000 general practitioners that could be prescribing, 400 are trained to prescribe, but yet only about 110 of those are prescribing. Again, less than 1%. And it's not the solution. We need the medical community, doctors, to become champions of this industry to provide solutions. Now, one of the challenges also is for the doctors is that there's only been 2 to 3 fully market authorized drugs available. And if you look at the time gap in between, you look at dronabinol, approved in 1985 for nausea and vomiting. It's almost 40 years ago. And then in 1992 for weight loss in HIV patients, we had Epidiolex in 2018 for 2 rare conditions, and Satifax still waiting approval in a lot of jurisdictions. So this is why we need to ensure we get the pharmaceutical industry excited to become champions. And how do we excite them? How do we get them involved? Well, pharma is going to get excited when we can create new novel new chemical entities, when the drug that we're producing is novel, when there's sufficient data to support market authorization, and when we have the confidence that patients will be reimbursed, and that your product's going to be commercially viable. And lastly, you need to ensure that we have key opinion leaders that are going to go out there and endorse and become champions of your product. Now, your clinical program also has to be robust. Now, clinical programs can take up to a decade and cost $1 billion. But you've got to ensure to get market authorization, and you got to realize too, though, when you're going through a clinical program, by the time you've finished, your drug is probably going to be genericized. So you got to show significant improvement over the current standard of care to ensure that you can get premium pricing and recoup your benefits. So what is the solution now? What is the pathway for us to get there? It's not easy, it takes time, and I will emphasize there are no shortcuts. I think there is a lot of myths and a lot of false assumptions within the industry at large early on, but just because that we're dealing with a natural plant-based substance, that regulators around the world will provide fast tracks. If we want to bring cannabinoid-based drugs, pharmaceutical drugs, there are no shortcuts. We have to follow the established biotech and pharma regulatory pathways that are enshrined in law. There are no shortcuts, but you can get there. And we know by introducing new chemical entities with strong patents and demonstrating care that's going to be above the current standard, we can get there. There's a lot of anecdotal evidence out there, there's a lot of proof of concept studies out there, there's a lot of observational studies, but a lot of them don't have patents or limited patents that are there. And generally, I would say cannabinoid studies need to follow the accepted regulatory pathways with minimum thresholds that exist out there, and that includes having 2 randomized, double-blind, controlled studies that showcase your efficacy and your safety. And again, to emphasize, there are no shortcuts. It's enshrined in law. It's regulated. If we want to follow the process, we can bring these therapeutics out there. It is complicated. It does take time. But for us to get there, the pathway you have to follow, you got to ensure that we understand the pharmacology behind it, understand the biology, understand how the receptors are binding, understanding the ascending and descending sequencing, understanding our dosing and PK. All of that put through a phase 1, 2, 3. And keep in mind, not everything makes it to a phase 3. Not everything makes it to a phase 2. Get there. So what are some of the areas that could assist to attract pharma? You heard me talk about patents, and if we want them to be champions, we got to have patents along with our new chemical entities. And what we're looking for is composition of matter patents, where you can get about 20 years. Now, in order to have a drug patentable, what do we need and what are we looking for? It's got to be novel. You got to have utility. You got to show that it's better than what's currently being used out there. It's got to be non-obvious, and there has to be evidence to support that it works. You got to have a clear description of how it works, which means you got to understand how the receptors are going to bind. You got to understand the pathways and its impact. got to do all of the investigational pharmacology, biology, and then it gets approved without shortcuts. But there are ways we can do things more efficiently and fast tracking, and then also de-risk some of the investments that are going in. You could look at doing in vitro and in vivo studies over human, which relatively a lot less cheaper. And by doing in vitro, where you're looking at the cell wells and how the receptors will bond to it, you can determine if it's toxic. You can determine the drug interactions relatively cheap. Now, there's a saying in the industry: kill early, kill cheaply. If you're not getting the indications that you're going, kill it and go look for a new lead. Don't flog a dead horse. And if you're not getting the signals, move along. Also, you can look at your animal models, and you could look at developing a robust in vivo program. You look at your drug interactions there. You look at if it's toxic or not. You could have a drug that's so effective, but if it's going to be toxic, it's not going to get approved. Again, kill early, kill cheap. Don't spend 5 years or a lifetime on something that you know it's not going to get approved. The other thing we need to do is start with the end in mind. And it is so critical to understand your target market profile and your target product profile. How are you going to differentiate your product, your drug, amongst the competition that's out there? And how is it going to be above the current standard of care? And these are all components that we need to use to develop the regulatory pathway. What are your therapeutic areas for your target market profile? What are the target patient profiles? What are the patient characteristics? Looking at the target product profile, when you look at the age of the patient, the source of clinical differentiator, all of this involved moving forward with having the end in mind. And the target market profile helps you get there and move along. Now, all of this is challenging. It takes time, it takes people, but done right with the right team and the right people, there are rewards. If we look at Epidiolex right now, approaching $1 billion, and in 2022 grew 16%. I think the pharma industry in general is growing at about 4%. Dronabinol, despite having generics out there, it's growing it's at about 400 million, and we still don't know the full effects of side effects because it's not fully approved in all jurisdictions. Leaders need to leave people in better places than they found them. And there is a pathway there. There is ways to get there. And ultimately, we need to ensure we follow that pathway to bring the therapeutic benefits to the millions that need these products. We talked about the challenges. We talked about there. How can we get there? I'll give you some examples of what we're doing at Brains Bioceuticals with our partners and how we're walking this path and trying to be courageous to do full clinical programming, finished dosage form products, and what we're doing on innovations so we can bring pharmaceutical drugs to the market. Now, for us, our drug development program started off by us getting involved in clinical studies, supplying our active pharmaceutical ingredients to over 30 preclinical and clinical studies globally, of which we're supporting a phase 3. And then we moved on to our own in-human studies where we're working with researchers around the globe, researchers such as Mount Sinai that are using our specially designed and formulated capsules on a phase 2 study for opium harm reduction. Now, I was born and raised in Vancouver, Canada. In North America, in Canada, and the US alone, every day we're losing 150 people to opiate overdose. It's 150 deaths daily. And this is why it's so critical for us to be champions of potential therapies. And I say potential because we're still going through a clinical trial. We're not there yet. But as a way, as a mechanism to help support and help save lives and help people around there. And now we moved on to our own drug discovery where we are developing our new chemical entities focusing on neurology, and we will lead our own preclinical and clinical studies in those areas. And our objectives are simple. We want to improve the efficacy of cannabinoids. We want to improve the specificity and targets for research. And we want to have efficient drug delivery formulations. And we want to do this all in partnership with world-leading partnerships with innovators and collaborators around the world. Well, now, what does the future hold? And what guides us towards the future? What we've done is we've taken our CBD API, which is an industry standard. We've produced over 500 consistent batches, supplied it in over 30 clinical trials globally. We've backed that up with technical packages, which includes a U.S. drug master file, which has been referenced. Also includes the AU active substance master file and a drug substance IMPD. We take that work, what we did on the CBD side, and we are now developing other cannabinoids as active pharmaceutical ingredients to provide more options for research, more solutions out there. Now, very proud to say we have THC Delta 9 in a solid form available for clinical research now as an active pharmaceutical ingredient. We have CBN and CBG also available, and we've taken that foundation on the active side, and we have isolated nutraceutical products for both human and animal use available. And that's exciting. We can take potential collaborations with beverages. We can look at animal health. We can look at how athletes are looking at recovery, inflammation, and pain, work with sports sciences, sports nutrition on the nutraceutical side too. And we believe all of this happens through partnership. And you can't do innovation on your own. And we're very proud to be here today with DSM-Firmenich. We're very proud partners with them. And together, Brains Bio and DSM-Firmenich, we provide end-to-end solutions, right from your active pharmaceutical ingredients to clinical trials to finished dosage forms. But one of the key areas on innovation that we are working with, and DSM-Firmenich taking a lead on this, is in 4 areas too that's so critically important. One is enhancing stability, where we know that stability is paramount to the success of an active ingredient. So how are we going to enhance solutions for enhanced stability? Enhancing the solubility, where DSM-Firmenich has developed proprietary powder catch technologies capable of enhancing the solubility, providing more options out there. Enhancing our bioavailability. How are we going to provide lower dosage forms and provide more options? So by means of lipid encapsulation, nanomulsification, or liposomal delivery. And also, and I think this one's very key, providing targeted delivery solutions, targeting the delivery of active specific regions, particularly in the GI tract. And this is something where DSM-Firmenich is leading. We're proud to support them on this. They're doing clinical data on this studying, all to provide patient-centric solutions that can be championed by our medical community, by the pharma industry there. So, a real live example recently I can give you of that partnership and collaboration that's taking place is we have OMG Pharma also here from Australia. And Brains Bio is an API, and DSM-Firmenich, working with OMG, have now developed orally dissolvable tablets for insomnia. That's innovation. That's providing innovation, solid oral drug forms. It's providing more options, and it's through partnerships that this is all going to take place. But the foundation of all of this work for us comes through starting with the right molecules. Starting with the right molecules and the active ingredients can assist your clinical program. It can assist in your innovation. It can assist in different products. It can assist in providing patient-centric solutions. That is the key, and we've seen it time and time again where folks have started a clinical program only to come to phase 2, 3, be compromised, and have to start again. That's time, and that's money. So, as you heard me say, leaders lead and leave people in a better place than they found them. Leaders also uplift, leaders collaborate, and leaders don't leave people behind. And as a father, I want to ensure I don't leave my older son behind. This is my older son, Meva. He's 8 years old. He's going to be a scientist. Amazing kid. I love him. But Meva in Punjabi means the reward of hard work. When I approach things, when I approach work, and when I think of the lens, I think of everything in the lens of my kids. If the world had more anik, more honor, dignity, and pride, we can give the world more Meva, the reward of hard work. So, ladies and gentlemen, I invite you to come join us in this courageous journey to provide therapeutic benefits to the millions that need it. It can be done. We can provide it. Come join with us. Come partner with us. Let's do this together. Hope you guys have a great rest of the day here. Safe travels from where you come from, and thank you for having me here today.
We're in the Brouillard, everybody. Fantastic, wonderful. This is the International Cannabis Business Conference.